start, I'm going to put a warning in here in the beginning, because it is, of course, true crime, which is not always relaxing for everyone. So if you don't like the combination of ASMR and true crime, I also have a lot of other videos you can watch on my channel, and please subscribe. Okay, sorry, now after this long intro, we're going to jump into it. In this video, I'm going to talk about a woman named Mary Ann Cotton. She was born on October 31 of 1832. 1832 in Low Mersley, Durham County in England. She would die on March 24 of 1873 in Durham County. She was then executed for poisoning her stepson. She was also a British nurse and housekeeper who was also believed to be Britain's most prolific female serial killer. She is said to have poisoned up to 21 people, including 11 of her own 13 children and 3 of her 4 husbands, before being executed in 1873. So, first let's look back at the beginning of Mary Ann Cotton's life and even her youth, because I often find it interesting, because often something happened in the youth of such very serious criminals, so I speak. It was not always rosy, which of course certainly does not justify this, but that is why I find it interesting to put it here and to mention it as well. So, she was born in a small village in northern England. Her childhood was not so happy. Both her parents were still very young when they married. Her father, Michael, was still a minor and was deeply religious. He disciplines Mary Ann very strictly. When Mary Ann was 8, the family moved to Merton. She goes to a new school where she finds it where she finds it difficult to make friends. Shortly afterwards, her father died after falling 46 meters down a shaft in the local coal mine. So she was raised by her mother together with her brother. When Mary Ann was 14, her mother remarried. Mary Ann does not love her stepfather. Okay. still engaged to another woman. Then they get married. In the meantime, her 3.5-year-old daughter dies, leaving her with only one of the 9 children she had. Joseph also suddenly disappeared from Mary Ann's life. No idea how or what, but remember this name. Joseph Nazareth. So remember Joseph. He is gone now. She then returned to Sutherland and got a job as a nurse in a pharmacy. She sends Isabella, the only child she has left at the time, to her grandmother, so her own mother. George Ward, one of the patients of the clinic, is an engineer. He married Mary Ann in Monqueer Mount in August of 1865. George succumbed to a long illness before October of 1866, characterized by paralysis and again intestinal problems. So do you recognize this? Despite the patient's symptoms, the attending physician is surprised at the speed of his death. Once again, Mary Ann receives a life insurance premium. James Robinson is a carpenter in Ballion, Sunderland. After the death of his wife, Hannah, he hired Mary Ann as a housekeeper in November of 1866. A month later, James' baby died of stomach problems. Mary Ann then becomes pregnant, and at that moment her own mother becomes ill with hepatitis A. Mary Ann immediately went to her. Although the mother began to recover from the illness, she suddenly started complaining of stomach pain. At the age of 54, she died in the spring of 1867, 9 days after Mary Ann's arrival. In 1867, Mary Ann's stepfather married her neighbor. So, Mary Ann's daughter Isabella Mowbray, around 10 years old I'm guessing, was returned to the Robinson household. Where she was a housekeeper. That carpenter whose baby died, and then soon developed severe stomach pains and died. As did Isabella Mowbray, the daughter of Mary Ann, died of stomach pain, and also 2 of Robinson's children died. All 3 children were buried in the last week of April. So altogether, 4 months later, the grieving father married Mary Ann. They have a daughter, Mary Isabel, born in November of 1867, who not long afterwards falls ill with very familiar symptoms, stomach pain and things like that. She died in March 1868, and she was only 4 months old. Meanwhile, James becomes suspicious of his wife's insistence on taking out a life insurance. She had racked up debts of £60 behind his back and stolen more than £50. He threw her out and retained custody of their son, George. cares for a tax collector recovering from smallpox. By John Quick Manning. Shortly afterwards, she became pregnant again by this lover. So this John guy, and she become pregnant with her 13th child. Then Frederick Jr., so the son of that cotton guy, the previous guy, died in March of 1872, and the child Robert soon after. Then Natras fell ill with stomach fever just after changing his will in Mary Ann's favor. So Mary Ann then takes out an insurance policy on the still living Charles, so also the child from Frederick Cotton. The insurance still had to be processed, so they are all dead now. Only the child from that Frederick Cotton, the brother of her best friend Margaret, who is also dead. So that is the only child that is living now. And George, that was living by the father who threw out Mary Ann Cotton. Then after going about about her business as usual, her downfall begins with the parish official named Thomas Riley, who asked her to help care for a woman sick with smallpox. She was then complaining that the last remaining cotton boy, so Charles Edward, was in her way, and she asked Riley if he could not be admitted to the workhouse. A workhouse is a house where you can stay and then be offered work. So she told Riley the boy was sick, and she say, so this is a quote, I won't be bothered for long, he will go just like the rest of the cottons. Then 5 days later she told that Thomas Riley guy that the boy had died. So Riley found this suspicious and went to the police. He persuaded them to wait to prepare a death certificate until the circumstances could be investigated. Mary Ann's first visit after Charles' death was not at the doctor's office, but she went straight to the insurance office to get paid. An investigation was conducted and they came to a verdict of natural death. Mary Ann claimed that Riley accused her for rejecting his advances. But the story still made the rounds in the local newspapers, and they discovered that Mary Ann had moved across north of England and had lost 3 husbands, a lover, a friend, her mother, and 11 children, all of whom had died of stomach fever. So this was investigated further. Samples had been kept from Charles, and tests showed they contained arsenic, so that is a poison, and the police arrested her. She was accused of murder. The trial was adjourned until after her delivery, because she was still pregnant at that moment, on January 7, 1873. She gave birth to her 13th child, whom she named Margaret Edith Quick Manning Cotton. She was found guilty at the trial. The Times newspaper then reported on March 20, so this is a quote, after the sentencing, the wretched woman showed strong emotions, but within a few hours this gave way to her usual cold, reserved demeanor, and she staunchly maintains that she is innocent of the crime for which she has been convicted. Several petitions were even signed, but to no avail, so she is still guilty. Mary Ann Cotton was executed on March 24th of 1873. She died not from breaking her neck, but from strangulation strangulation caused by the rope being made too short, and it was possibly on purpose. Someone did it on purpose, they think. So of Mary Ann's 13 children, only 2 survived, named Margaret Edith, that was born in 1873, so when she was executed and found guilty, she lived till 1954, and her son George from her marriage to James Robinson, so her stepson actually. No, that's not true. Not her stepson. He also died. So George, that I said, who stayed with the father. That was for the best, I said sooner. Before. I said before. Oh, I'm so sorry, my English. Okay, so 2 of her children survived. That's very, very sad. And she did all of this for the money. I think she always went straight to collect her premiums and took out insurance before they died. And yeah, her husband died if she could take a premium, and they were all poisoned with arsenic. The poison left no traces, so it was ideal because it gave the same symptoms as typhoid, cholera, food poisoning, all typical epidemics of that time. At that time, but this poisoning caused a lot of pain. People described that last pain as if many needles were inserted into their bodies at the same time, or as if a corkscrew was drilled straight through their limbs. I looked it up. So it's very sad, and also because there were a lot of children, and if the poisoning gave so much pain, it is horrible. And I think it's also crazy because over the time of 20 years she just murdered her mother, 3 husbands, a lover, a girlfriend, and 11 of her own children without anyone noticing. And that's actually the craziest thing, I think. So much, and no one had something true. I don't know, it's very, very weird, and very crazy. So anyway, be sure to let us know what you thought about this video, about this case, about this serial killer, and I hope you understand it a little bit, because my English is not the best, but I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching this, and I hope I see you in my next videos, maybe, or on my channel.